Thank you again for joining us. And I just want to say, Ani, bonjour, Audrey Indishnikas, hello, greetings, and my name is Audrey. We have been doing this for a little while now. This series is possible because of the relationship we have with community and people that would like to support our programming and our donors. So we really want to thank our donors for the ability to be able to have programming like this and bring in people from all over to share some stories with us. So for those of you who know me, I am the Director of Indigenous Initiatives here at the college. I am co-hosting, we're all co-hosting, got the whole team with me. If you're joining the first time, the Indigenous Knowledge Keepers Series is comprised of a vast variety of experts and knowledge keepers in different topics. And we try to think about a collective learning journey and unlearning together. What have we thought? What have we been taught, sometimes formally in our own education systems? And then rethinking, is that true? And maybe looking at it through a different lens. So we're really, really happy today. We have Joseph Pitawanakwat. And this is someone who I've had the privilege of working with in the Toronto area on other projects, and is just a real tremendous leader in the community and doing exceptional work. And I'll pass it over to Alistair today from our team to do our land acknowledgement. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Alistair. I'm the lead for the mentorship program, Indigenous Mentorship Program, and I'm going to get going with our land acknowledgement. So George Brown is located on Treaty 13 of the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. The land acknowledgement is done in the spirit of kinship, good faith, and respect. This land, which is bountiful and abundant, has been home to past, present, and future generations of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Attawarden, and the Wendat people. We give thanks to this land and those who have been its stewards since the beginning of time. As tree people who live, work, and survive in the dish with one spoon, we recognize the land, its waters, trees, and fauna, all of which sustain life. We recognize the role the land plays in the cultural resurgence, healing, and self-determination of Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the roles of the original people, past, present, and future, in the commitment to the land, the water, as well as the care they have given to all members of all nations through each season of the wheel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. And I just wanted to say that, as we go on this journey, and we have at George Brown, we have these great frameworks that lead us on this work, that help us engage in this. And if I think about our 2026 strategy and the foundations of equity, that's what we're engaged in here today. So I really want to thank some of our senior leadership who show up and really lead by example in the college, including our very own president. President Farron is with us today, and he comes to all our stuff, in person and virtual. So we greatly appreciate the support to this portfolio. And our registrar is with us today, and Jennifer Grant from the ORA's office, our director of everything fantastic. And it's just really good to see your faces. And I know that when we leave here, you guys, it just leads to such a healthy discussion. So I appreciate you joining. I'll pass it back over to Lisa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I'm the Indigenous Student Support Specialist here at George Brown. I just wanted to give a little background on Joe. So Joseph is Ojibwe from Wakamekong, married with one daughter, the founder and director of Creator's Garden, an Indigenous outdoor and now online education-based business focused on plant identification beyond sustainable harvesting and teaching everyone of their linguistic, historical, cultural, edible, ecological, and medicinal significance through experiences. Joseph has learned from hundreds of traditional knowledge holders and uniquely blends this knowledge and reinforces it with an array of Western sciences. So without further ado, I'll now pass it along to Joe to begin our session.
All right, right on. I'm so excited. I
crazy couple days. I was in Sault Ste. Marie yesterday. I had a keynote presentation, actually two in one day. I presented virtually in the morning for a different conference, and then in person in the afternoon. And then I left yesterday late. I ended at 4:30 my presentation, but then everybody wanted to hang out and let's see here. Wait 1 second. Oh yeah, okay, there we go. Cool. Yeah, so I left. Well, at 4:30 my presentation ended, but then everybody wants to ask questions until 5 o'clock, and then people stopped me in the hall. I was trying to leave that conference center. They're stopping in the hall. I didn't leave until after 6, and then I have to stop at my friend's house for a coffee, he said, before I leave. And then there was big snowflakes. They were like the size of a pancake. They were falling, and it was kind of funny. They went like this. I've never seen snowflakes like that. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna be a long drive, because I just said I'll stay at my sister's in Sudbury. And then I visited with my friend, had a coffee, and then I left. And it was nice. The pancake snowflakes left. It was just rain, and so but it was like 7:30. So it was like 3.5 hour drive. It wasn't bad. I visited with my sister, and I went to bed. And then in the morning, I was just having lots of coffee. We were visiting at 5:30 in the morning. She was getting ready for work, and then I'll leave early, I thought. And then I was drinking all this coffee. And then, well, okay, we left. Then I got on the road, and then I saw a text message come in. I'm sorry, you drank all of my decaf. And then I was like, oh, that's why I'm real slow. I'm not even passing anybody. Oh, there's a transport in front of me. Oh, I'll just go slower. And then it took me real long to get here from Sut to Peterborough, where I live. And so, and then I was late. I was just setting everything up. And then so I get to have my first coffee with everybody. I'm actually glad that I made it on time. I was just coming into Peterborough. You see my cup. I really like birds. And then big owl, everything just tempting me all the way here to stop. Even just as I was coming into Peterborough, I said, oh, I'd have just enough time to set up. Big, beautiful barred owl, just like couple flaps right on top of the road too, and just like looking at me drive by, just tempting me. Have my binoculars right there, my camera. I was like, no, I'm gonna end up being late. So I came. Oh man, I didn't stop for the owl. Maybe I'll go for a walk this afternoon. But yeah, cool. I'm glad I'm here. I have a bunch of cool stuff that I wanted to be able to share with everybody, but just like a little bit of orientation, I guess. I am from, Wikwamkong on Manitoulin Island. It's like the coolest place ever. Well, of course, I'm incredibly biased. I think Manitoulin Island completely is the coolest place ever. When I met my wife, we just visited with my grandma. My grandma just told cool stories, and I just thought the coolest stories that she shared was an interesting reality of hers, is that when she was growing up and when she raised most of her kids, that she didn't have access to a hospital. And my mom is a nurse. She graduated for an RN when she was pregnant with me. And so I grew up, hospitals on wheels that'll be there in like 40 seconds to save my life. And hospitals with like polysporin and stuff, or Bactroban, or the fizzy peroxide, the little brown bottle of pain. And I just thought it was super fascinating. How the heck can you live and raise families without that resource? And my grandma's answer is always plants. We use plants. And then for me, even when I met my wife, I was like, aren't these stories like ridiculous? Like I can't even imagine having kids. And then like I have a daughter now, she just turned 9, and I can't imagine not having a hospital like 8 minutes away, and then a ambulance that's always parked up on the road up here. So it's like kind of wild that she had plants. And so for me, it was just fascinating stories of no access to a hospital and having to use plants. But I didn't even realize I was learning. Listening to all of these stories, I was learning about plants. And me and my wife, we wanted to reunite my grandma with these plants that she loves. Some of them she hasn't seen since she was a kid. And so we said, oh, okay, we'll go and find those for you. And it was a real simple kind of knowledge acquisition, this whole experience. We just wanted to find plants for my grandma that she remembers. So she would describe the way that they looked with terrible descriptions. Like one of our first ones, she says, oh, go and find this this plant. It's small and it's dark green. No indication of a flower or anything. And she says, you usually see a couple of them there. They make a little patch. And me and my wife, we did this for years, probably like almost between like four or 5 years. The way that me and my wife met, this is what we did, is just walk. And it was like a giant adult scavenger hunt. And it kind of turned into our whole kind of love story as well between me and my now wife, was just traipsing around through the wilderness, trying to find plants with these terrible descriptions. And we would find these different plants and we'd bring them back to my grandma. And she would just say, yeah, I know what that is. I'm gonna make some right now. And she would just make tea. She would drink the tea and she would enjoy it. But it's just small town, like 3,500 people live on my res. And so eventually everybody knew, oh, Joe found this plant. Joe found this plant. And then people would find me, they'd knock on my door, or they'd see me in the parking lot, knock on my window. Hey, I want that plant. I heard you found it. Oh my God, yeah, you want some? There, go ahead. And then there's a tradition that we have that, money is an interesting thing. My grandma didn't see money until she was like 12. It was real funny. She was watching her mom was hanging clothes on the line. Then she had this piece of cloth and she suddenly got scared. Like my grandma was thinking, is there a snake in there? What's going on? And her grandma was being her mom was being real careful with this cloth. And then she put it on the line too. And it was a real small little rectangular. My grandma she was about 12. And she was like, who would wear something like that? What would that even cover? It was a bill. It was money. And she just never seen it. And so my community doesn't really know how to deal with these kind of ancient transactions of, if you need medicine, you usually bring a gift to somebody to trade. You say you're a good hunter, you bring some meat over, and then you have a little trade. You get your medicine, the medicine person gets their meat, and, everybody's happy. So we have like this little barter system. People are kind of not interested in using money for this yet. So people come to my house with like pickles, like jars of pickles. Oh, I grew these pickles. I made these pickles. I heard you have this plant. We'll make a trade. Oh, okay. So I just giving all these plants away. I had this giant cabinets just packed. The whole wall of my house was all pickles. It was crazy. And the adherence to that tradition is pretty fascinating. But interesting things happen after I give that medicine away to people. They would come at me and they would say, well, you know, I use that medicine, it helped, thank you. I'm better. Oh, better from what though? And then this is how I learned everything. In some of my first experiences, there was people with going through menopause, and they had hot flashes. And they said, yeah, I haven't been able to sleep in the same room as my partner 12 years because my hot flashes. And because she has to sleep in a separate room. She says, my husband insulated it, and I leave the window open all winter, and in the summer I have 2 air conditioners. They're full blast. It's just a frozen cold room. That's where I have to stay because my hot flashes are for a decade. And then she's like, yeah, I had that tea, and I had that tea about 4 o'clock in the afternoon that night. I slept in the same bed as my partner for the first time in a decade because those hot flashes went away just like that. And so I was like, oh, it's like hot flashes are really kind of not idiopathic, but kind of like a really deep-rooted hormonal issue that is impossible to manage. I wonder what happened. So then I'd learn about do some research to be able to learn what that plant was doing, what that collection of plants was doing to help with that issue. So I had to learn lots about how to study all of the different chemistry inside of plants. I figured out some really interesting things along the way. This was a part of my master's research, was to learn and understand the drug discovery process, because over 85% of every pharmaceutical drug that has ever been discovered comes from plants, which kind of, makes a lot of sense. But in consulting with that literature, most of those plants that are used to create most of the pharmaceutical drugs come from the Great Lakes. They come from our medicine. And so it was really cool just to see like exactly the plants that my grandma was talking about as saying, this is medicine for this issue. I'd see all of the research done in effort to create a pharmaceutical drug. It's actually really interesting the way that it works. It's really simple, is they'll take traditional knowledge from somebody, like real extractive, awful research, but they'll go and figure out how we use different medicines and then test to see if there's an effect, like on lesser animals or something, like a proof of concept project. And they find out that this traditional knowledge seems to be accurate in lesser animals. And so they figure out all of the chemicals inside of that plant. There can be like 250 different chemicals. And they figure out which ones are the most active, the most concentrated in that plant. And then they figure out what those chemicals do to fix the problem. So they map out, it's called a mechanism of action, what this plant does to accomplish that goal, to fix this issue. And then from there, it just takes a simple biochemistry to be able to create a synthetic mimetic, like a pharmaceutical drug that copies what that plant chemical is doing. And then from there, they go and do all of the studies on that synthetic mimetic. It's a kind of a really fascinating process to follow, because you could see just in that process alone, you take a plant that is designed to fix a certain part of the body, and it has like 250 different chemicals inside of it that are working together to fix this problem, is what it seems like. And then you take the pharmaceutical drug that is a synthetic mimetic of one of those. And this is the industry that was created, extremely successful. And so then it's not so far-fetched for us to look at plant medicine and see the value in it, because essentially we're going right back to the source, or right to the source of where a lot of these drugs come from. And then a lot of the drug discovery processes too, it's such a, maybe just for me, but I think it's super fascinating to see all of the failed drug discovery endeavors. Like one, I wonder if I could share with you if I pin my solution. And then I'll share with you guys the one that failed, a drug discovery process that failed. Oh, I don't even have it on here. Well, actually, this one technically failed too. 1 second. I have to show you this. Super cool. One of my favorite, coolest plants ever. Back. Yeah. Oh, check this out. This is an area, a type of ecosystem. It's called a sphagnum bog. It's just like a really mossy bog. Usually you get these mats of moss growing on top of the water. Essentially, it's like a giant waterbed. I like finding these bugs using this cotton grass sedge. They look like little floating fairy snowballs. And they're super cute. But if you see like kind of like a generally flat area, it's swampy, you see some dead trees, you see those cotton balls, little Q-tips everywhere, you'll see those, see that flower. So yeah, this is a really good indicator species. But you see these little flowers, what I'll show you, it's called a pitcher plant. You look for little red balls. Little red balls on a stick. That's kind of what it looks like from the road or from a distance. And you'll get all of these tamarack trees growing in there too. But what I wanted to tell you is about the pitcher plant. It's one of the failed drug discovery attempts. And I think it's super cool because we have always used those roots for back pain, and especially kind of like sciatica. And so, yeah, just I'll show you later in this footage. There's these little red balls. That's the flower, and beneath those is a pitcher. It's like the plant will hold water inside of it, and it converts that water into an acidic digestive juice. And so it's a carnivorous plant, and so bugs.
Joseph.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pause here for the community and see if they can see your video. Do we need to pin Joseph? Can everybody see his video right now? Okay, great. And Joseph, the video that you're showing, the footage, is this Ontario? Just for context, is okay. Yeah. All right.
We found bogs like this in London, Ontario, in the Bruce Peninsula, and definitely all the way to Ottawa, and definitely it becomes the dominant kind of terraform of the north in the boreal forest. But yeah, you see on the bottom of this plant, I'll show you in a second. It converts all of this water into a digestive juice, and it eats bugs. So it attracts bugs to climb in, and when the bug goes in, it eats them. And so this plant likes to grow where there's not too many other plants. And yeah, right there. So it'll hold all of the water, and bugs crawl in, they can't crawl out, and it eats them. So it's a really fascinating plant, even just as a plant. Yeah, it's a really incredibly sophisticated pitcher plant. And so, yeah, there's lots of real cool stuff I wanted to share with you about this. Yeah, failed drug discovery attempt with this, because we always use it for back pain like sciatica. When you have this nerve coming down your spine, and your spine will wait, I'll just So yeah, your spine comes down in your, or a nerve comes down in your spine, and there's a branch that goes down both legs. And there's certain types of insults like hyperglycemia, or when your blood sugar is too high, some types of chemotherapy, or it can even just be an injury, like you take your vertebrae that will be either herniated, or they will have an injury where then that nerve is being pinched, just mechanically pinched, and then that sends pain down into both of your legs and numbness, and it's really weird. And it's an incredibly uncomfortable disease or sickness. And there's a chemical, a host of chemicals inside of these roots. My favorite thing, if I was there in person, I would give some to everybody, because you take these little roots and you hold like a little pea-sized piece of these dried roots, just put it in your lip, and then it's like having a rock inside of your mouth, but slowly that root will swell with fluid, and then your saliva is mixing with that root, and then you swallow that fluid. And this medicine is absorbed sublingually, so it's absorbed right from your mouth right into your blood. And so it's really fast, usually like 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, that the chemicals from that root are right into your blood. And it's really fun because people with sciatica, you generally have no relief from it at all. You're living with a little bit of pain all of the time, and you do what you can to not live with a lot of pain all of the time. So lots of different drugs, lots of different comfort measures, lots of different ways to sit and move, like that kind of help, but that pain is always there. And when people put that root inside of their mouth, there's these types of chemicals, they're called saponins. It's basically like a type of soap. It's a whole class of chemicals, and this one has a very specific set of saponins. And what those saponins do is they will how to say this in a simple way, the places throughout your spine that you register pain, the sensory neurons, in order for those sensory neurons to turn on and send pain signals to your brain, is they're usually inoculated with calcium. So calcium is sent into those neurons so that your brain can receive the pain signals. And what this medicine does, what those saponins do inside of this root, is they will prevent calcium from entering into the sensory neuron, preventing any pain signals from being sent to your brain. And so people will feel all of the pain is gone in like 10-15 minutes. People have been dealing with sciatica for like 20 years or since their first childbirth or something. They know, they feel it just within a few minutes. All the pain is gone. But that's not the only thing that plant will do. So it helps with like the acute problem, like with the pain, helps with the pain immediately. But one of the other things that it does is your nerves are a primary glucose disposal site. So when your muscles are full of energy and your blood sugar is still high, insulin can't send the sugar into your muscles to be burned. So it sends it into other places, and your nerves are one of those sites. That's why if you have chronically uncontrolled blood glucose, like in the case of somebody with diabetes, you usually end up with some form of neuropathy or another. You lose feeling in your feet, you get numbness and tingling because those nerves are being damaged by all of the sugar. And so what this plant does as a way to, it helps with the acute issue, the immediate help with the pain. And so people are standing up straight. And I remember there were 70 people, maybe like 30 had sciatica in a big group that I had. And I put this in everyone's lip after lunch. I just went around, put this in your lip, put this in your lip. And then after a couple of minutes later, everybody's standing up. And then, it's like sometimes even real emotional too. People start crying because they're like, haven't been able to do this in And it's so crazy to see. So it deals with that first problem, but then it also helps with the chronic issues, because when you protect the nerve cells from the toxic effects of hyperglycemia, that tissue is able to heal. So whatever damage that happened from an injury or herniation in the vertebrae, or if it was just sometimes chemotherapy induced or drug induced neuropathy, where you get all of these chemicals attacking the nerves, or if it's something as simple as diabetes and sugar attacking that nerve, now it's protected from the biggest insult, sugar, glucose. And when it's protected from that biggest insult, now it's able to heal. And so when they're trying to create a drug that does what this plant does. And in studies that they were doing, they're just doing them on rats, mice. They would completely sever the sciatic nerve of the mouse. You know, ethics are questionable, but yeah, just sever that nerve, and then they would give a bunch of the mukakim nas, we call it, the pitcher plant roots, and in some form or another, and within a few days, the severed nerve was reconnected and could never even tell anything ever happened with that mouse. And so they wanted to create this drug for like some EMS type situations, emergency medical services, of course, you know, for chronic issues, but they really wanted to have this for like accidents and things like that, car accidents or bicycle, whatever the accident is, because that's an injury a lot of people are left with after. And so if that can be used on site for this situation, it would be an immense preventative, because without it, you end up on the with pain medication that, you know, over the counter, but then the pain sometimes is strong enough that you need prescription pain medication, and that leads some people down a really slippery slope of dependency. And so the desire to create this drug was fascinating. They poured millions of dollars into it. The problem was that it was not a profitable endeavor. And so that's why we can't go to the physician and get a medication that helps heal, helps to fix something like sciatica. So it's even more fun, you know, that whole drug discovery process. It's even more fun looking at the failed ones, because it's like when we understand about a little bit more about these plants and the knowledge about how to experience this, then we're accessing a form of therapy or healthcare that that sometimes even physician is not able to do. And that's really fascinating for children to really attach themselves to that idea. The other thing that I really quickly wanted to share, one of the questions is I really like to share about what this whole experience is like. What this is this plant has a really amazing gift to give you, right? To help with back pain and sciatica, and in an injurious situation, preventing some of the chronic issues that can that you could be left with, that can be residual from whatever the injury was. So this plant has an amazing gift to be able to share with you. It's even more fun to learn about the gift that you can give back to this plant. It doesn't take much. You know, it's just basic human nature, I think, and just normal human relationship things. When you meet somebody and that somebody gives you a gift, it's just a knee-jerk reaction to give something back, to want to give something back. And then if you're like me, you don't want to just give anything back. You want to give something just a little bit better. I'm gonna let them give me something. So Christmas is like a ever-growing competition in my home. I'm always one-upping everybody, and then they try to do the same thing the next year, and it's really fun. But it's just normal, basic human instinct, I think, to want to when you get a gift, to give something back. And so in all of these experiences, when we're getting gifts from plants, we are absolutely feel that responsibility. When you put that in your lip and your sciatica is gone and you're standing straight for the first time in a decade after like 15 minutes, that's an incredible gift. And so take a second and say, I wonder what I could give back. And with this one, it's really clear. So I wanted to share this one with you guys. It's really clear because you watch this plant, doesn't take long at all to see no one is helping it. You know, actually see these long stems that this plant has. Where's that part where I walk through? So this plant
Joseph.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joseph, while you're getting that prepared, what's the name of what we're talking about here? Because I think it can be so, I mean, this is amazing information. I think I missed it.
Yeah, I'll share with you in a second. It's really funny.
Okay.
But yeah, this flower is on top of a really long stem. And what you'll see is that it's growing in incredibly dangerous environments. And so nobody ever really goes into these places. Like if a moose walks in to the spot, it'll just fall right through and it won't be able to get back out. And so this plant, it's actually pretty sad when you watch it, because that stem is like, you know, it can be a foot or 2 feet high, and that's where all of the seeds grow. And now what you'll see is this plant is super competitive for space. It likes to be the only plant that's there. It doesn't like to have anybody else around it. It likes to be all by itself. You'll see what happens. I'll just come back to you here. What happens is it makes this super long stem, because if all the little seed pod can have like 800 seeds inside of it, and if those seed pods fall within 1 foot of the parent plant, that parent plant will hormonally sterilize all of them, because it can't have 800 kids growing right next to it. This is too much. And so it wants those seeds to fall somewhere else. And that's all it wants, but it's growing in a place where nobody ever goes. No animals really experience the spot. And what happens more often than not is all of those seeds fall right here and they're all sterilized. And so this plant has a really hard time spreading. It's like waiting for somebody's like a moose knuckle to hit the seed pod, you know, and then for those seeds to spread, but it almost never happens. And so you can walk into a bog, you could see just a few of those plants here and there. And I've been in areas like this. You could take those seed pods and then just a little bit away, and it's such a successful seed that almost all of them are going to germinate. And so we've been to bogs like this that have, you know, a dozen, maybe 2 dozen plants inside, and we, in 2-3 years, we made like an impenetrable carpet of this species. And so you could spread, you could help it. That's my point, is that it's very easy to enter into a reciprocal relationship with this plant where you see it's helping you and you want to give something back, and so you could help it, and then you could spread it around, and then you could see the more that there is, you could harvest those roots and then help the rest of your family or community or whatever. It's just a really easy relationship to maintain. Some plants are a lot more difficult relationship wise. They require so much work. This one, super simple. Just throw those seeds around, they will all grow. It's super fun to see that, to see this satisfaction of an opportunity where environmental health is growing at the same time as human health. I think that that's a really good place to be. The name of it is called Makkim Das, we call it, because the way these leaves look is like a frog can just put these on like pants. are like long johns. They're like a frog long johns. Its English name is pitcher plant. Its Latin name is Sarracea purpurea. And it's more common than you think. Like I said, I found this all the way through the Bruce Peninsula, London, Sarnia area, Ottawa, and then in the north, it's just incredibly common, but super effective plant. The main reason why I wanted to share this with you guys is because when you start to learn about medicine, you'll start simple. And if you were ever with somebody in the forest and they said, these roots will get rid of back pain, it sounds unbelievable. But you could see, we can learn to uncover this whole experience, right? This is the case with, I know now, about 250 different species of plants, all have this incredible story. So real quick, just before I'll be able to have a little bit of a Q&A with everybody, right? So I wanted to say that when you start to learn about medicine or be a part of these experiences, you hear things that sound so outlandish, sound kind of unbelievable. But at the same time, they are very easily corroboreal stories. So I wanted to just say, you know, you take a second and you think about the 4 medicines that most of us will have an opportunity to experience, right? Our sacred medicines or traditional medicines. You have the sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. And I kind of wanted to end with a little bit of a challenge to kind of introduce you to this idea of this way of thinking. I always wondered why we're so obsessed with just throwing a bunch of sage smoke everywhere. And you know, I remember being younger, thinking like this is almost a little bit annoying. Like there's just always sage smells everywhere. And like it's all in my clothes, it's stuck in my hair, my whole school smells like this all of the time. And it's like, why? And obviously there's like a whole story. Sage has an incredible story in our creation stories and why it is regarded as a sacred medicine and holds prayers and stuff like this, right? But I found other cool stuff too. Like I found out that sage has an incredible array of chemistry that is very it's called a vermifuge. It's to help to get rid of parasites and worms and stuff like that. And that chemical is in a fibrous chitin indestructible case. And so when you make sage tea and you think I'm going to get rid of all my parasites, it's not. That medicine is still stuck in the case. Like boiling water doesn't break that case open and allow that medicine to be available. And then you get tinctures, extracts made with all these different ethanol and methanol, whatever, glycerin extracts of sage. I'm getting rid of my worms, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because that alcohols don't break that case either. Really, the only thing that breaks that case open is when it's burned. And even more interesting, so when you burn it, you crack that case open and release that medicine, and that medicine is in the air. And even more interestingly, is that medicine is best absorbed transdermally, and so through your skin. So you take that sage and then you rub all of that medicine all over your body, and that's its responsibility, is to make yourself inhospitable to whoever shouldn't be there, all of the worms. So even in intestinal worms too, like you'll have this, they will leave you as fast as possible if you have them. There's this fascination with early settlers. Why do Indigenous people never have worms? And I think it was our obsession with sage. And one of the reasons why it achieved such a sacred status is because of how clean that it kept us. And even more interestingly, you have a special type of area of skin around your temples. And so you ever see people when they smudge, that's where they put that medicine, and that area of your skin is the most adapted to transdermal absorption of different exogenous chemicals, different things. And so we put that medicine here, and I've worked with maybe about a half a dozen naturopaths who do the vitamin B treatments and a bunch of stuff with walnut extracts and whatever for parasites. And then they have their blood analyses they do, and ways, metrics to measure. An average vitamin B treatment at a naturopathic setting is about $800 in total. And it takes about 8 months, 10 months to be effective enough that you could see some incredible results. This medicine, smudging a few times a day, was more successful in about 10 days than that whole treatment. So there's a bunch of clinics that are just like, wow, no more vitamin B treatments. We're going to be telling everybody to smudge every day, a couple times a day. Take that medicine and put it here, and to be able to make your body inhospitable to these invaders, and allow this individual to be closer to what we can consider to be healthy. And so there's real pragmatic, verifiable reasons why we are completely obsessed with our medicines that even receive like the sacred status that they have now, but also every single plant that's out there. I mean, you could be at any forest anywhere in Ontario, and you're probably surrounded by at least 80 species of plants. Even in the least dense kind of barren areas, there's so much plants out there. They all have gifts to give you. And when you learn what those gifts are, and you spend some time with that plant to learn what gift you can give it, you can be in a relationship with that plant that helps you and everyone around you, all of your people friends, but it also helps to raise the health of that environment, because you're going to be giving gifts back to that plant that cause there to be more, and that constant consultation and engagement in territory and plant people relationships, I think, is super necessary for to satisfy the opportunity for human health and environmental health to increase simultaneously. So I just wanted to
Joseph,
yeah,
we could listen to you all day. I know there's so much to learn about our natural environment, and I do appreciate you talking about the sacred medicines. We do want to give an opportunity, because we only have about 9 minutes left, to ask our audience if they have any questions. But before we do that, I just wanted to share with the community. Anina, did you burn yourself on your coffee?
No, I read Laura's comment in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay. Before I turn it over to Joey to help facilitate a little bit of a discussion, I just wanted to say to the community that we have student centers, and we're obviously opening one at Waterfront on January 30th, but we have access to all 4 of these sacred medicines. If you would like to come and learn more, we do have elders that can share the knowledge of those plant medicines with our community, and we do have an abundance of sage, which we would be happy to burn with you, and have, like Joseph was just talking about, those excellent rewards from such a beautiful and fragrant medicine that could permeate through our hallways at Waterfront, because that's where we will be opening on the 30th, and we're at Casa Loma, of course. So that's available for our community. But of course, we do want to add a little bit of a teaching with it so that it is not used irresponsibly. And I will just now pass it over to my colleagues to see if there's anybody that has any questions for Joseph before he leaves us today. Miigwech.
Awesome. Thank you, Audrey, and thank you, Joseph. That was fascinating. I always love to hear about plants as medicine. So we do have a couple of questions. Ashwini asks, everything you shared is super informative. I'd like to know how do you think we can better preserve knowledge like this, better share it and make it known?
It's kind of like my day job. I am trying to figure out the best way to do this myself. And that's why I am so appreciative of organizations like yours to be able to bring me in and open our eyes to some of this potential. So really, I think that is in that's a responsibility of each individual, as long as we're aware of it and brought to awareness in a good way. Then that's a good place to be. So yeah, I mean, kudos to you guys for organizing an event like this and bringing this awareness of this, I think, really fascinating idea. And now it's in the responsibility of the learner themselves to say, this is knowledge that I need in my life, and I will do what I can to be able to learn what I need to be able to make this knowledge a part of my life. And so you guys are an amazing resource. I do the best I can. I just shared a link in the chat for in case you wanted to learn more about cedar. I made this little video a long time ago about why cedar is just the greatest thing. So I'm doing what I can through whatever modality that is the most effective. Institutions are. Yeah.
So sorry, Joseph. I just wanted to add, you have a tremendous amount of teachings that are available on YouTube. I did post a few for anyone in the community who would like to learn more. This in fact is Joseph's day job. There are ways to reach him if you want to have maybe follow up with this and have him join your department meeting or a classroom, or work on building on the knowledge that you've learned today, which is just such a sample of the breadth of all the things beautiful in our natural world. So I did put some information. You can always contact our office to be a mediator to help reach out to Joseph and maybe bring him back into our community.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey. Michelle has a question. Joseph, are there, speaking of information and sharing, are there any Indigenous plant books that you would recommend?
Not that I would recommend, no. A lot of this research was done in a really extractive and not in a good way at all. And because of that, they're so it's pretty tremendous. But yeah, no, I don't think I could really recommend something yet.
Awesome. Joshua, I see you got your hand up.
Oh, Alistair?
Oh, sorry, Alistair.
Sorry, now I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you. Joseph, thank you so much for all the information. There's a lot that was brought up for me. I'm from London, so seeing that bog, I instantly thought of home. So thank you for that. I'm curious, because we go through different seasons in the year, different medicines are available at different times. I'm curious, like, what's your favorite medicine to access during the winter? Like, I love going for poplar tips, but I'm curious to what you like.
Yeah, so not gonna lie, the poplar tips are pretty fantastic. I think my favorite thing throughout the winter is I think also because it's challenging is to work with bark. Bark is always there. You always have access to the bark, but it's a challenge to identification of trees is a skill that needs to be just honed every year. It can be super difficult thing at first, but once you learn a little bit, I was told when I was just starting to learn that any medicine that you would ever need you could get from trees. And now that I have all of this research and experience, I have a hard time arguing that point. Trees can give you anything that you need medicinally to help repair and restore any organ, system, or process your body has or goes through. And to have worked so hard to identify trees throughout the winter, which I think I'm pretty good at now, I can get my medicine anytime, and I actually just kind of flex that muscle every year a little bit to make sure I'm getting some bark medicine throughout the winter. And I think that that's my favorite thing, just all of the different trees and the medicines that they have. It's really
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
I'm
Thank you,
so
Susan.
sorry, everyone. We have to wrap it up. I know we could go on for a while here. We do try to keep this over the lunch hour as to be a little bit of a bright light through our work days. So I will pass it off to Lisa to give us some closing remarks.
Yes, thank you, Audrey. And thank you everyone for joining us today and creating such a great discussion. Thanks to Joey for his tech support and guidance. And of course, a big Chimiigwech thank you to Joseph for sharing his knowledge with us today. Our programming would not be possible without the generous donation of an anonymous donor. Our community thanks you. And next month, we will be welcoming Joanne Robertson for our next IKKS on February 15th from 12 to 1 p.m. Joanne is an Anishinaabe author, illustrator, and water protection activist. In this session, we will learn who water walkers are, why they walk, and whom they walk for. Joanne will share stories and images that inspired her award-winning book, The Water Walker. To find out more and register for other upcoming events, please visit the Indigenous Initiatives website at georgebrown.ca/Indigenous. So again, Bamapi, be well, and miigwech.